Shalom, beloveds of the King. Praise Abba Yahuwah. Here we are again, and we are looking at our Torah portions, as I am now going to be bringing out these Torah portions just to be able to make sure that we are on track with all our Torah portions. And I am so excited because if I look and see where the Father's got me in having to reveal a foundation, where we're busy with a foundation at the moment, and our foundation is really tied in to the book of Shemot, to the book of Exodus. And so it's so amazing, because in the teachings that the Father's got me doing at the moment, it doesn't matter which group I'm busy with. On Thursday, I'm busy with leaders in the community. I have a community that I'm busy with, where I'm busy teaching leaders in the community. And we are busy with a foundation. And we are busy with the book of Shemot. On Shabbat, Father said to me, lay a foundation. Stop teaching the book of Revelation for now and do a series on a foundational teaching. We are busy with Shemot. And here we are with the Torah portions. On Tuesday nights, which we are doing the discipleship training on Tuesday nights, what are we busy doing with the manna from heaven? We are busy with Shemot. We are now, by Tuesday, we are going to start looking in depth at the commands. We are looking in depth at the 10 commands, which we are going to line up with the 10 plagues, which we are going to line up with the 7 days of creation. And we are going to be able to see the fullness of what the Father is wanting to bring us. So I just stand in awe how Father is the one who's orchestrated everything, seeing as though we are in his timeline. Since we came into Passover, we are on the Father's timeline, and on the Father's timeline we see how the Father is the one doing the work, how the Father is the one leading the footsteps. And what is the purpose of us having to do all of this? Because he's saying, come back to a foundation. We are not to follow the ways that comes from religious ways. We are not to follow Jews. We are to follow Yahuwah. He is the one whom we follow. But people now want to follow Jews, and they want to follow the Jewish way. And so if they go astray, the people will go astray. No, we are to come back and follow the Bible. And if we follow the Bible, we will see that there's a pattern put within this Bible that we are to adhere to. And when we are being faithful to do what He's asked us to do, that is when the blessing is being given to us. So the Father is so faithful as we are continuing to look at these Torah portions, and we are now going to look at Beshallach, Torah portion number 16. And after He had let go, when He sent. This is Beshallach. It's from Exodus 13:17 to chapter 17, verse 16. And then we will look at the Haftorah, which is from Judges 4, verse 4 to Judges 5, verse 31. And so this is Torah portion number 16, and we are today going to look at Beshallach, as we are going to continue in Exodus chapter 13 where we left off. And let us read Exodus chapter 13 from verses 17, and it says, And it came to be, when Pharaoh had let the people go, that Yahuwah did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, though that was nearer. For Yahuwah said, lest the people regret when they see fighting and return to Mitzrayim. So isn't it amazing? He already knew the hearts of these people. He already knew that they were going to see the giants in the land. They were going to see the fighting. And so they could have gone a short way round that would have taken them something like an 11-day. They say that the journey would have been maybe an 11 to 12-day journey that they would have journeyed, but instead it landed up eventually taking them 40 years on this long journey round, because lest they would see the fighting. And it says, lest the people regret when they see fighting and return to Mitzrayim. So Yahuwah led the people around the way of the wilderness of the Sea of Reeds, and the children of Israel went up in fives from the land of Mitzrayim. So here we see already that when when the fightings come, when the opposition comes, when the difficulties come, when the giants are in the land, how do we behave? How do we behave? I'm just in the midst of this, and as I've started this, I have just realized that I've started this in great enthusiasm, and I have not yet prayed. So I just think that this is a good opportunity now to be able to pray. And so, Abba Yahuwah, I just want to thank you for this Torah portion of Beshallach, Father. And I just want to thank you that when we study the ways of these Israelites, and we are really going to be able to look and see that from the time that they're going to come out, and they get all excited because you deliver them with your strong hand, with your mighty hand, you deliver them, and they are coming out with a mighty hand, but yet at the end of the day, they are still going to be able to forget so quickly what you have done for them, and then they start to gripe, moan, and complain. And isn't it interesting that many times it's the leaders that take the blame, people come up against the leaders, and what they don't understand is as they speak up against the leader, like Moses says, they are actually coming up against you, Father. And so, Abba, I just want to thank you because throughout this Torah portion we will understand that you are the one that raises up the people that you want to raise up, and you are the one that anoints them, and you are the one that sends them forth to do what needs to be done. And this is all about your purpose and your plan, and you are the one who rose up Moshe as a type of deliverer, just as you rose up Devorah, at the time of when Israel was also in a time of going astray in bondage to their enemies. And you rose up Devorah in order to be able to be a prophetess and a judge, in order to be able to stand with her people and teach her people and bring the people back to your ways. And so I thank you, Father, that you are the one that chooses people, you are the one that anoints people, and that you are the one that raises them up to do what needs to be done. This is not about man raising themselves up. There's many people in this world that want to raise themselves up out of their timing, and we cannot raise ourselves up to do something that the Father didn't raise us up to do. We can only walk in the things that the Father has got for us to walk in. And so I thank you, Father, for these Torah portions, and that as you teach us, that we will understand that there will be an Amalek spirit that will always want to be able to come and bring destruction in our lives. And this Amalek spirit is the decisions that we need to make in our lives, decisions to obey Yahuwah and follow Him, as opposed to obeying the flesh and following the flesh. And so, Abba, I just want to thank you that you alone are the one that is going to be able to lead us and guide us as you are taking us through these Torah portions in this time of this critical hour that we find ourselves in, when the world is really going darker around us, but we need to come into your glorious light. And so, Abba, I pray that these Torah portions are it's for our benefit, it's for our leading, as we will understand in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, that we will have to understand what it is that you are wanting to show us, for us to be able to understand that there's patterns and there's tests and trials, and these people's lives that has been put and recorded for us to have examples of what it is that we need to be able to submit and surrender when we face these things, to understand that we are no different to these Israelites, so that we don't come out in a place of arrogance and pride and thinking, well, it's just them, but that we will instead look at ourselves and realize, where are we on this journey? And so, Father, I thank you that I can commit this time to you right now. Will you speak through my lips and speak to my mind the very oracles that come from your word, Father, that comes from the throne, that my lips will only speak the very things that you want to be able to reveal to your people. Open up the mind of our understanding, open up our heart, and I pray, Father, that this message will be able to reach many people. Raise up the people that need to hear this message of this foundations that we're busy working through, so that they may be able to come into a place of truly being able to come back into the truth of your word. And so, Father, I thank you for this Torah portion, and that you alone will be able to reveal to us in Yeshua's name. Amen. And so, here we see that what do we do when we encounter opposition? Do we run just like the Israelites? Do we say it's the giants in the land and we fear the giants and therefore do not stand, and therefore we do not fight the good fight of faith? And so we have a look at verse 21. And Yahuwah went before them by day in a column of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a column of fire to give them light, so as to go by day and night. And the column of cloud did not cease by day, nor the column of fire by night before the people. And so we will see in a scripture as we read that this column of fire by day is a messenger. We will see in the next chapter that it talks about the messenger, and that this column is actually a messenger. And who is this messenger? Because if we look at Exodus chapter 14 verses 19, it says, "And the messenger of Elohim who went before the camp of Israel moved and went behind them, and the column of cloud went from before them and stood behind them." So who is the messenger that is in this cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night? This messenger is none other than Yahushua himself. Who is our pillar of fire by night? And Yahushua is the one who came to lead the way. He is the one who said, "I am the way." So it says he comes to lead them. So the column of the cloud to lead the way. And Yeshua says, "I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." John chapter 14 from verses 6 to 10. So let's just have a look at John chapter 14. As Yeshua speaks and he says, "I am the way." So we look and we see Yeshua said to them in John chapter 14, Yochanan chapter 14 verse 6, and it says, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you had known me, you would have known my Father too. From now on you know him and have seen him." So Yeshua was the way to come back to the Father. He was the way. He was the door. He was the lamb that was slain. He was the sheaf offering that was given. He was the one that became the unleavened bread that was given for us. He was the one that came to the brazen altar. And he's the one that's going to lead us through the Red Sea to Mikvaras. He's the one who's going to cleanse us. He's the one that's leading us into the holy place, that's leading us back to the Father in the Holy of Holies. Philip said to Master, "Show us the Father, and it is enough for us." And Yeshua said to him, "Have I been with you so long, and you have not known me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father. And how do you say, 'Show us the Father'? Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I speak to you, I do not speak from myself, but the Father who stays in me does his works." So the Father and I are one, is what Yeshua said. So how do we then say that Yeshua is not Abba Yahuwah? Because they are one. They are two, yet they are one. And he is the way back to receiving the Ruach. Yeshua had to die so that we could receive the Ruach of Yahuwah, so that we could come into the Holy of Holies, which is where the tree of life is, in order to be able to fellowship with the Father. And so we now have a look at Exodus chapter 14, and in Exodus chapter 14 verses 4, and it says, "And I shall strengthen the heart of the Pharaoh, and he shall pursue them. But I am to be esteemed through Pharaoh, and over all his army, and the Mitzrites shall know that I am Yahuwah." And they did so. And so, yeah, we see that he's going to strengthen the heart of the Pharaoh. And sometimes the Father will allow us to go through these a series of things because he wants to be exalted. You see, he is going to allow the Pharaoh to be able to come up after them. But I am to be esteemed through the Pharaoh. So the Father will allow circumstances in our lives because he wants to be glorified through what we're going through in order for him to be seen by people around us, by people who observe our lives, by ourselves that we need to see him. And so that he will make himself known, that we will learn to put our trust and our faith in him and him alone. And so in Exodus chapter 14 verses 10 it says, "And when the Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes and saw the Mitzrites coming up after them, and they were greatly afraid." So do you see, these people are afraid. You know, they're being delivered, but yet at the end of the day they are afraid. And how many times when the enemy comes against us, we get afraid as opposed to trusting the Father that, understand, they have just seen what the Father has done to these Mitzrites in the land of Egypt by the 10 plagues. And yet they still do not understand that the Father is the one that is able to deliver them. And so he says, "And they said to Moshe, 'Did you take us away to die in the wilderness because there are no burial sites in Mitzrayim? What is this that you have done to us to bring us up out of Mitzrayim? Is this not the word that we spoke to you in Mitzrayim, saying, Leave us alone and let us serve the Mitzrites, for it would have been better for us to serve the Mitzrites than to die in the wilderness?' And Moshe said to the people, 'Do not be afraid, stand still and see the deliverance of Yahuwah.'" So sometimes, this is the thing, we want to speak and we want to say, "Oh, look and see what's going on, and look and see what's going on," and we speak the problem, and we speak what we see with our eyes, and yet we do not see with the eyes of faith. And the Father wants us to be able to look with the eyes of the faith and not to see with the eyes of the natural things that we see. We should already know that the Father is faithful and the Father will see us through. We should already have cultivated a relationship with him to know that if he's faithful to have delivered you there, he's going to be faithful to deliver you again. He's not a liar. He's not a man that he should lie. Do you understand? This is the creator of the universe who created the heavens and the earth. And when he speaks a thing, he will do it. He will not lie. But yet we put him in the we put him in the place of man, and we think because man disappoints us, and because parents and people, husbands and wives and children and family members and bosses and people have disappointed us, we think he will do the same. I have a word for you today. The Father is not a man that he should lie. The Father is faithful to his word. And if the Father says that I will never leave you, I will never forsake you, he will never leave you and he will never forsake you. Yes, you will see the things go on around you, but listen to what he says. Stand still and see the deliverance of Yahuwah. There's times that you're just going to have to stand still. You're going to have to bow your knee. You're going to have to stand still and say, Father, I don't understand what all is going on around me. I don't understand these giants that I see in the land. I don't understand all these things that are going on around me. I don't understand all these destructions coming my way. But I know one thing. I don't look at what I see going on around me. I don't see the giants that are trying to take me out. Instead, I stand still and I look to you. And see the deliverance of Yahuwah, which he does for you today. The Mitzrites, whom you see today, you are never to see again. So he was going to make sure that he was going to annihilate them. Yahuwah does fight for you, and you keep your silent. So do you see, we have to get to the place of where we understand that Yahuwah is the one who's going to fight for us, and we will hold our peace. We will stay in the shalom. And so when the whole world is shaking out of control, you have to understand, when the storm comes, the only way that you can do is to stand still. Be still and know that He is Yah. When there's nowhere else to go, when you are between a rock and a hard place and you've got nowhere else to go, you must remember that there is only one who can deliver you. And you are to stand still and see His deliverance, because He is the only one who can help us. And He's faithful. But many times He brings us to that place. Sometimes it's from our own doing. Our sinful, rebellious ways bring us to the circumstances that we find in our life. And He will bring us to the place of where we are to be humble to our knees, because He doesn't want us to put our trust in the arm of the flesh. He wants us to put our trust and our faith in Him and Him alone. There is no one else that we are going to be able to put our trust and our faith in other than Him. He is the only one that we are going to be able to turn to. No one else. And so He says, and Yahuwah said to Moshe, why do you cry to me? Speak to the children of Israel and let them go forward. And you lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, and let the children of Israel go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. Sometimes we need to take the sword. The rod is a rod of correction, but it can be a staff to lead. And many times it will be a sword, that is the sword of the word, and that we are to be able to take what have we got in our hands. We might not have anything, but we will have the word, and we are to stand on the word of Yahuwah. Verse 19 says, and the messenger of Eloah, who went before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them, and the column of cloud went from before them and stood behind them. So you see, this messenger, Yeshua himself, is the one that is protecting them. He's the one who's going before them. He's the one that is going to be able to surround them. And He will be the one to deliver us in the time of the storm. He's the one that will bring confusion in the enemy's camp, and the enemy will flee from before us. And this is exactly what we see of what happened over here. That the enemy, there was confusion that came upon them in verse 24, and it came to be in the morning watch that Yahuwah looked down upon the army of the Mitzrites through the column of fire and cloud, and He brought the army of the Mitzrites into confusion, and He took off their chariot wheels so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Mitzrites said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for Yahuwah fights for them against the Mitzrites. So the Father will show Himself strong in the midst of our enemies. He will be the one to show Himself strong. Verse 31, He says, and Israel saw the great work which Yahuwah had done in Mitzrayim, and the people feared Yahuwah and believed Yahuwah and His servant Moshe. And so Israel saw the great work which Yahuwah did, and the people feared Yahuwah, and they believed Him and His servant Moses. But the miracles will only carry us for so far before we forget what He has done. And when we face our difficulties, it's here that we see. The Father is laying out a pattern for us. A pattern is being laid out for us again. They are now going to be able to go through all of this. And they're going to go through this Red Sea. And as they're going to go through this Red Sea to come out onto the other side, Father is laying out a pattern for us where we are going to see that them crossing the Red Sea, getting to the other side, they have received His name. They have kept a feast for Him. And now they are confronting the Red Sea. And as they're going through the Red Sea, and like as I was sharing with us last night in yesterday's teaching on the Tuesday night that I do, that I was saying as I was sharing with the people afterwards, that I said, to me, it was like I could see as these Israelites were walking through there, they walked on dry ground. But at some stage, some of that water was still splashing. The water wasn't covering them. But I'm sure that that water would have been splashing over them, and they are being cleansed. This was like a baptism, like a mikvah, where they are being cleansed and purified from everything of what was upon them from Egypt, all the gods of Egypt, everything that they were attached to with the gods of Egypt. They have now gone through the brazen altar. They came to the brazen altar when they had to slaughter a lamb, put the blood on the lintels of the doors, and this was like the lamb that had to be slaughtered, and Joshua became the one that was the lamb that was slaughtered for us. And now as they go through the Red Sea, this is with the water, and even though it's on either side, the water, I'm sure, would have still sprinkled them. And this is now when they are going to be able to be clean. So we have to die when we have to surrender ourselves and become a living sacrifice for the Father on a brazen altar. And then after that we come to a brazen laver. And the brazen laver is where the priest would be washed. He would have to wash himself from all the blood that has come from that brazen altar. And so that he would be able to come into the holy place, which is where he's going to receive the Ruach and receive the word. And so isn't it interesting, because this is exactly the pattern that the Father is laying out for us. They celebrated a feast of Passover. That is when you come to a brazen altar, the feast of Passover, where Yeshua became the lamb that was slaughtered for us. And so we receive Yeshua. But then we come to the brazen laver, which is then where we have to be baptized, where we have to be mikvad into him, where it's no longer I that live, but Yeshua that lives in me and through me, the hope of glory. So that then I can come to where I can come into the holy place, where I will then be filled with the Spirit of Yahuwah. And then I will be taught the word, because the Ruach of Yahuwah is there to teach us the word of Yahuwah. He comes to write the Torah on the tablets of our hearts by the Spirit. So we receive the Spirit so that he's the one who goes before us to teach us and to lead us in all truth. Open up the mind of our understanding. Open our lives up to the truth of the word, so that we may be able to then walk out the Father's ways. And so this is the pattern that has been given to us here in Exodus chapter 14. And then we get to Exodus chapter 15, and in Exodus chapter 15, it is so beautiful, because this is a song. They sang the song to Yahuwah and spoke, saying, I sing to Yahuwah, for he is highly exalted. The horse and the rider he was thrown into the sea. And Yah is my strength and song, and he has become my deliverance. He's my all, and I praise him, allure of my Father, and I exalt him. Yahuwah is a man of battle. Yahuwah is his name. They exalt his name. They know his name. They exalt the name of Yahuwah, and they know that he is one who goes to battle. He's known as Yahuwah Tzavaot, the captain of the army of hosts. And so he's the one that has come to deliver them with a strong and mighty right hand. He's the one that came to deliver them from the enemy that wanted to pursue them. So in Exodus chapter 15 from verse 11, who is like you, O Yahuwah, among the mighty ones? Because they knew all the mighty ones of Israel. They knew all the mighty ones of Egypt, of the Mitzrites. He knew all their mighty ones. They knew all their mighty ones. They knew about all the gods of Egypt. Now they are saying, who is like you, O Yahuwah, among the mighty ones? Because they've realized that there's no other one like him amongst all the mighty ones of Egypt. Who is like you, great in set apartness? Because he's wanting set apartness, and they understand that he is set apart. Awesome in praises, working wonders. You stretch out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. In your loving commitment, you led the people whom you have redeemed in your strength. You guided them to your set-apart dwelling. So you see, there's the pattern again. What is the Father doing? The Father is guiding us to set-apartness, because He says, be holy as I'm holy. So He's guiding us to become set apart. And everything about what He's doing is bringing us to become this dwelling place, a set-apart place, a dwelling place to carry His presence. So that's why He says, be set apart as I'm set apart, because He wants a dwelling place to carry His presence. Excuse me. And so we are to dwell with Him. We are to see His enemies. We will see His enemies. We will see the greatness. That is why we need to fear Him. We don't have a revelation of His greatness. We need to have a revelation of His greatness. Because at the end of the day, we will see Him destroy His enemies. We will see His enemies being destroyed. We will see what He will do in the time of battle. He knows how to destroy His enemies. And so when we get to Exodus chapter 20, Exodus chapter 15, from verse 22, let's just read Exodus chapter 15, verse 22. And Moshe brought Israel from the Sea of Reeds, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. Interesting how 3 days comes up so many times. 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah in the belly of the whale, of the fish, 3 days and 3 nights. They had to be cleansed for 3 days. They had to be cleansed. We're going to look at that in the next Torah portion in Shemot chapter 19, Exodus chapter 19. And so they come to this wilderness. The word for wilderness is the word midbar. That's why when we start to read when we get to Numbers, once again, I don't know why on earth now they call the book of Numbers, when at the end of the day, it's the book of Bamidbar, the wilderness. It's called Ba, which is the, and Midbar, which is wilderness. So it is the wilderness. And so Midbar comes from the root word to speak. So Midbar comes from the root word Medaber. It also means Medaber, comes from the root word Medaber, which comes from the word to speak. So this is the place in the wilderness where the Father is going to speak to us. Is going to speak to us in the wilderness. He's going to give us His instructions. His right rulings. And he speaks His words. Now the words is dabar or davar, and that is why we've got davarim. Because davarim, the book of Deuteronomy, is where He speaks now. He's going to bring all His words that He's been speaking. We get words that is going to come out of Shemot, Exodus, that's going to come from Leviticus. Actually, most of they don't really work through. In Deuteronomy, He doesn't bring all the offerings. You don't get offerings in the book of Devarim. So Yeshua becomes the ultimate offering, because they are going to enter into the promised land, and Yeshua is the one who's going to lead them into the promised land, who was going to become the one that was going to be our ultimate sacrifice, the blood that was going to be shed, that no longer would we need the blood of rams and bulls, because Yeshua's blood would be sufficient for us. And so He's going to speak His words, but we will be tested on what we will speak in our wilderness experience. And this is what we need to understand. We are going to be tested, and here already we're going to see the test that's going to come their way. So from verse 24, chapter 15, verse 24, it says, and the people grumbled against Moshe, saying, what are we to drink? Then he cried out to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah showed me a tree. And when he threw it into the waters were made sweet. There he made a law and a right ruling for them, and there he tried them. So this is a law that was made. Now listen, this is a law. So if it says a law, then we are to take note. Now, isn't it interesting? Yeah, in verse 24, he's telling them that he's going to test them. There he tried them. He tested them. So they are being tested. They've just sung a beautiful song to him. They've just told him how mighty and strong he is. They've just told him that there's no one like him, that he's the greatest out of all the mighty ones. But then straight away, when there's no water, they start to complain. And so it says they grumbled against Moshe, saying, what are we to drink? And so, yeah, we see that we will complain when so that's why it says, you worship me with your lips, but your hearts are far from me, because we are to rejoice under all circumstances, because he tests us on what comes out of our mouth when we are being tried and tested in our difficult places that we go through. So, yeah, when we see, he cried out to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah showed him a tree. And when he threw it into the waters were made sweet. There he made a law and a right ruling for them, and there he tried them. You know, who was the one that hung on a tree for us, that comes to take away our bitter time that we're going through, and brings deliverance for us? Who is the one? Yeshua will be the one, just like the rock that was struck. He will be the one that will hang on a tree to take our bitterness, our pain, and to deliver us. And he has delivered us. We continue with our pattern. If we diligently obey his voice and guard the commands, he will become the one that became the curse for us. So we don't do it of the flesh, but by the Ruach. He will heal us and our diseases. Yeshua hung on the tree. His blood, his body was broken for us. He was the one that was hung on a tree. And this tree was thrown into this waters that were bitter, that were made sweet. And then he made a law for them, and he said, if you diligently obey the voice of Yahuwah. So now we are to obey Yahushua and his leading, and we obey the voice of Yahuwah, and do what is right in his eyes. So we need to do what is right in the Father's eyes, and Yahushua came to be that tree, the one that was hung on a tree, that was put on those waters of our infirmity and of our difficulties, and all we need to do is to trust him and believe in him and do what is right in his eyes, and shall listen to his commands. Yeshua did not come and do away with the commands of the Father. Yeshua came to be able to expound and enhance, and he gave us the Ruach of Yahuwah, so that we now have no excuse, who writes the laws upon the tablets of our hearts. And so we shall listen to his commands and shall guard his laws. I shall bring on you none of the diseases that I brought on the Mitzrites, for I am Yahuwah who heals you. And they came to Elim, where there were 12 fountains. So interesting how they came to Elim, where there were 12 fountains of water, 70 palm trees, and they camped there by the waters. There were 70 people, wasn't it, that came out in the beginning of Shemot. 70 people. How many? And there were 12, which is made up of the 12 tribes. Just trying to see if I can find this, because this is just coming to me as I'm getting this now. And so there were 12 tribes. And now when we have a look at this Exodus chapter 15, we will look right at the end and we will understand that they were singing the song of Moses. And what song are we going to be singing when the faithful remnant, there's going to be a faithful remnant that is going to raise up? Father is going to raise up a faithful remnant at the end. And then we will understand this Exodus chapter 15 of the Song of Moses, because it's going to be the faithful that are going to sing the Song of Moses. So we have a look now at Exodus chapter 16. And in Exodus chapter 16, let us read from verse 3, and it says, "And the children of Israel said to them, If only we had died by the hand of Yahuwah in the land of Mitzrayim, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to satisfaction." So understand, they were slaves, yet, even though in their slavery, they would rather have had the meat that they had and the bread that they ate. So they are reminiscing over the meat that they ate and the bread that they ate to satisfaction. "For you have brought us out in the wilderness to put all this assembly to death with hunger." He has just told them that if you will obey my voice and you will do what is right in my eyes, then I shall, and you shall listen to my commands and shall guard my ways, I will not bring any of these diseases and the plagues that came upon the Mitzrites. But yeah, already, this is Bamidbar, the wilderness, where he is going to Midbar speak. And what are we speaking in our wilderness experience? Are we going to speak up against what we go through, and then we blame the Father, and we say, well, where were you when this happened, and where were you when this happened? And I know that I can this is where the Father really, when I was working through the course of the 70 times 7 on forgiveness, where the Father had to deal with me because I had some grievances against him, because I kept speaking out of my mouth. What have I done to deserve this, and what have I done to deserve this? Because we feel that we haven't done anything to deserve what has happened to us, you understand. And so these things become a hindrance for us. And so they were grumbling. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, I am raining bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day in order to try them whether they walk in my Torah or not. So they were being tested by the water, so they were being tested with water, and now they were being tested with bread. Yeshua is the water. He gives us the water of life. He says, come and drink from me. I am the water that you need to drink. When he said that in John chapter 7, on the last day of the feast. On the last day of the feast of Sukkot, this is what he spoke. He said, come and drink from me. I am the living water. Let's read John chapter 7. I don't like to speak things if I don't read it in the Word. John chapter 7 verses 37, and on the last day of the great day of the festival, which was the festival of Sukkot, Yeshua stood and cried out, saying, if anyone thirsts, let him come to me, and let him who believes in me drink. As the scripture has said, out of his innermost shall flow rivers of living water. And this he said concerning the Spirit, which those believing in him were about to receive, for the set-apart Spirit was not yet given, because Yeshua was not yet esteemed. So he becomes the bread of life, the word that is going to be given, and then he becomes the water, which is the Spirit that is going to be given, Spirit and truth. Truth, the word, he's the bread of life, and he's the water that has been given, which is going to be symbolic of the Spirit. So they're being tested with water, and they're being tested with food. They're going to be tested in the Ruach that they are to receive, if they will walk by the Ruach, and they are going to be tested in the Word, if they will obey the Word that is given to them. And we read, and it shall be, in the 6th day, verse 5, and it shall be in the 6th day that they shall prepare what they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And then verse 8, Moshe said, in that Yahuwah gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning bread to satisfy, for Yahuwah hears your grumblings which you make against him. And what are we? Your grumblings are not against us, but against Yahuwah. So understand, when we are bringing these grievances against the Father's chosen leaders, we are not coming up against the people, the leaders. We are coming up against Yahuwah, because Yahuwah is the one who's put them there. It's not against Moses that they are grumbling and complaining, but it's against Abba Yahuwah himself. And so from verse 22 we read, and it says, and it came to be on the 6th day that they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omer for each one, and all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moshe and said to them, this is what Yahuwah has said, tomorrow is a rest, a Sabbath set apart to Yahuwah. That which you bake, bake, and that which you cook, cook, and lay up for yourselves all that is left over to keep it until morning. And they laid it up until morning as Moshe commanded, and it did not stink, nor worm was in it. And Moshe said, eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to Yahuwah. Today you do not find it in the field. Gather it 6 days, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, there is none. And it came to be that some of the people went out on the 7th day to gather, but they found none. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, how long shall you refuse to guard my commands, my Torah? See, because Yahuwah has given you the Sabbath, therefore he's giving you bread for 2 days. On the 6th day, let each one stay in his place. Do not let anyone go out of his place, and on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. So here the Father lays out the pattern again. Yeah, a pattern is laid out, our foundation is laid out. He gives them the Sabbath. It was given to us in the 7 days of creation, where on the 7th day Abba Yahuwah rested. Now, Abba Yahuwah refuses to give them food on the 7th day. Yet we will go to malls and we will go shopping on the 7th day, when he himself refuses to give them food. They are to gather twice as much on the Friday, because on the Saturday they are not going to get food. And who are we to turn around and say, well, now we will go and we will do our shopping on a Shabbat, when we should be resting and spending time with him and in his word? So before the commands were even laid out in Shemot, Exodus chapter 20, we're already seeing the commands in practice over here. We're already seeing the Father laying out our foundation for us of the Sabbath. And this is his foundation. And this is what he wants. So then we get to Exodus chapter 17, and we're going to read Exodus chapter 17 verse 2, and it says, and therefore the people strove with Moshe and said, give us water to drink. And Moshe said to them, why do you strive with me? Why do you try Yahuwah? And the people thirsted there for water. And the people grumbled against Moshe and said, why did you bring us out of Mitzrayim to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst? They have just seen what he did when he put the tree into the water, and he gave them water that was bitter. He made it sweet, and they drank the water. They have just seen how he's giving them quail to eat at night, and he's giving them manna in the day. Yet they will gripe, they will moan, and they will complain. Moshe cried out to Yahuwah, saying, what am I to do with this people? Yet a little, and they shall stone me. Verse 6, see, I'm standing before you there on the rock in Horeb. So who is the rock? The rock is Yeshua, on the rock of the mountain of Horeb. And you shall strike the rock, and the water shall come out of it, and the people shall drink. And Moshe did so before the eyes of the elders of Israel. And this is where we see Yeshua, the rock, is going to be struck himself the second time. Abba says, speak to the rock. Don't strike the rock. The rock was struck He was stricken. He was scourged for our deliverance. And so the Father is going to strike that rock. He's going to be able to make him become, first, he's going to be able to become the tree. He's going to be hang on a tree. And he's going to make our bitterness sweet. He's going to deliver us from our diseases, our pain, and everything that we've been through. Then he's going to be whipped and scourged. He's going to be struck down, the rock on whom we need to stand, the rock of our salvation, the one who's going to give us the water that we are to drink, the one who gives us the living water, so that when we have a need or when we thirst, we are to thirst for the living word that is to give us, because he will become the rock that gives us the manna that comes from heaven, and he's the rock that gives us the water to drink that we need to drink. And then in verse 14 and 16 he says, now what happens is the Amalek is now going to come against them in this land of Rephidim. There's going to be a people, Amalek, that are going to come up against them. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, write this for a remembrance in the book and recite it in the hearing of Yehoshua, that I shall completely blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens. Now understand, he was to write it before Yehoshua, because the Father already knew. Why did he say in the presence of Yehoshua? Because he knew that Yehoshua was the one who was going to take the nation into the promised land, and that Moshe was not going to go into the promised land. And Moshe built a slaughter place and called its name Yahuwah Nissi, Yahuwah our banner. For he said, because a hand is on the throne of Yah, Yahuwah is to fight against Amalek from generation to generation. So what is this Amalek that we are going to face, going to represent? This is going to be a spirit that we are going to fight. Amalek, the word Amalek means dweller in a valley. It's a dweller in a valley. This is going to be the valley of decision that we are going to have to dwell in, because you see, Amalek is a descendant from Esau, which is everything that stands for the flesh. It's the valley of decision because, you see, it's the dweller in the valley. And if you look at Joel chapter 3 verses 14, it's the multitudes in the valley of decision. I'm not going to go there. Joel chapter 3 verses 14 talks about multitudes in the valley of decision. So these are those that need to make the decision. They don't want to obey Abba and follow him. It was just like Jacob and Esau. They were going to be the children of Esau. And the children of Esau, father hated Esau, but he loved Jacob. Jacob wanted to dwell in the courts of the father. He dwelled in the courts of his father, and he dwelt in the presence of Yahuwah, and he learned Abba Yahuwah's ways. Esau wanted to be a wild man, to go and hunt in the field, and he was about the lust of his flesh, to go and hunt wild game, because he wanted to feed the lust of his flesh, and that is why he was willing to sacrifice his birthright for a plate of lentil soup. And this is now, this Amalek, this flesh man, these people that the Father took very seriously, to be able to say that Yahuwah is to fight against Amalek from generation to generation. So the Amalek spirit is the spirit of the flesh that is going to constantly want to come up against you. It's going to bring fear, it's going to bring intimidation. Everything that the flesh wants to go into is this flesh nature. It's the flesh nature that we need to crucify. It is our flesh nature. It is the spirit of Amalek. And this is the very spirit, because they are the descendants of Esau. And if we look at the descendants of Esau, it's the Edomites. And the Edomites, there is no blessing that comes to them. In Obadiah, the Father says that he will totally destroy them. The descendants that will come from Edom. There is no blessing for them. That is the spirit of Amalek. And now we are going to be able to look at our Haftorah. And our Haftorah, we are going to go to Judges. So we are going to go to Judges chapter 4. A very interesting chapter where we're reading from Judges chapter 4 from verses 4 to 5 to chapter 5 verse 31. So I'm going to read from verse 1 to verse 10. And when Ehud was dead, the children of Israel again did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. So do you see, it's constantly, he raises up judges because they no longer have a leader. Now in the time of the book of Judges, he's got to raise up judges because the children of Yahuwah would constantly go astray. They would not keep his ways. They would not keep his Torah. They would constantly go astray. They would not keep his word. They were not to let this word depart from their eyes or from their lips. They were to meditate on it day and night, but they did not to be able to make their way prosperous, for them to be able to make sure that they kept in the Father's ways. Therefore Yahuwah sold them into the hand of Yabin, the sovereign of Canaan, who reigned in Hatzor, and the commander of his army was Sisera, who was dwelling in Harosheth Hagoim. And the children of Israel cried out to Yahuwah because he had 900 chariots of iron, and for 20 years he harshly oppressed the children of Israel. So just like for more than 400 years the children of Israel were being oppressed, and then the Father raised up a deliverer. Now these are the children of Israel that are being oppressed at the hand of this leader Sisera. And they are, at the hand of Yabin, which was the sovereign. So Yabin was the sovereign of Canaan, and there was the commander of the army, Sisera, was very harsh, and they had been at the hand of this commander for 20 years. Now, interesting, 2010 is the number of completion, fulfillment, double portion. And now what does the Father do? He raises up a woman. So, you know, when people, I get this many times that I get men, and I've even had women, that will come up against me to say a woman is not to preach. Especially in the Torah movement, it is very well known in the Torah movement, because this is the oppression that has been put on women. That was already from the time of Yahushua, that women were not to preach. Women are not to teach. I don't know what Torah they read, because if they read the Torah and they work through the Torah portions, there is Deborah, who was a judge and a prophetess, who taught the people the Torah. But I have been told I'm not supposed to teach the Torah, that is given to men. I have been told that I'm not to be a leader because that is for men. I have been told that I'm not to teach the word because it's for men. Yet, Deborah rose up as a prophetess, and she was a judge for the Father, who became a deliverer amongst her people. And what was she doing? Let's read. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lipidoth, was ruling Israel at that time. She was the leader at that time, ruling Israel. And she was dwelling under the palm tree. Now, a palm tree stands for righteousness. It is the righteousness of Yahuwah. It stands upright and just and righteous. She was dwelling under the palm tree of Devorah, between Ramah and Beit El, in the mountains of Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up to her for right ruling, for mishpatim. They came up to her to receive right ruling, to receive instructions, that she was the one studying the Torah and teaching them the ways of Abba Yahuwah's Torah. She was a prophetess, and she was a righteous judge in the nation of Israel. But now today we will have a religious spirit that is in a Christian church, because just last night somebody sent me something, and in this video this man is making it very well known that a woman is not to preach. It is an abomination to the Father. Now, isn't it interesting that if you look and you see in Ephesians chapter 4, so if we go to Ephesians chapter 4, in Ephesians chapter 4, when the Father says that He Himself gave as emissaries, so He Himself is going to gave some as emissaries, some as prophets, some as evangelists, some as shepherds and teachers, for the perfecting of the set apart ones, to the work of service, to a building up of the body of Messiah. Nowhere there does it say that it was only to be men, because they were all filled with the Spirit. I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh, man and woman. But now a woman will receive the Spirit of Yahuwah and is given giftings of, because it's a gift. She's either an apostle, a prophet, an evangelist, a teacher, a pastor. But now she's not allowed to walk in any of that gifting, because a woman is not allowed to have that position. Yet the Father rose up a judge that was a leader, and she was leading the nation of Israel in teaching them right rulings, because she was sitting at the feet of the Father, learning His Torah. And when there was a time of when Israel was in rebellion, the Father even rose up a woman, because where were the men? And so if the men do not want to take their place, the Father will raise up women to do the work. But men are sometimes too quick to put women down. Well, let's read the story. And she sent and called for Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, Has not Yahuwah Elohah of Israel commanded, Go, and you shall draw towards Mount Tabor, and shall take with you 10,000 men of the sons of Naphtali and of the sons of Zebulun. And I shall draw unto you Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his company at the Wadi Kishon, and shall give him into your hand. There, she's telling him now what the Father is saying. She is speaking to the commander of Israel and saying, Go to battle. Go to battle against the enemy. Take 10,000 men. Do not fear, because Abba Yahuwah is going to be with you. And Barak said to her, If you go with me, then I shall go. But if you do not go with me, I do not go. So there is Deborah, a mighty woman of Yahuwah, even going to go to battle. And she said, I shall certainly go with you, only there shall be no esteem for you in the journey you are taking, for Yahuwah is going to sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. So Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh. Interesting. In this story, the Father is going to destroy this man at the hand of two women. First of all, one woman that's going to go to battle. She gives the man, she gives Barak instruction and says to him, Go to battle. And then it's going to take another woman. It's going to take another woman called Yael that is going to be able to kill this. She's going to put the tent peg through the head of Sisera. And so we have a look now at Judges chapter 18, Judges chapter 4, verses 18. And it says, And Yael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, so Yael, she is a woman, she's the wife of Heber, the Canaanite, that She's the one that drove the tent peg into his head and killed him. So Yael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, turn aside, my master, turn aside to me, do not fear. So he turned aside with her into the tent, and she covered him with a blanket. Then he's thirsty, she gives him milk he wants water, she gives him milk to drink. When he's sleeping, listen to what happens. But when Yabal Heber's wife took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand, and she went softly to him and drove the peg into the side of his head, and it went down into the ground. So he was fast asleep and exhausted, and he died. And see, as Barak pursued Sisera, Yael came out to meet him and said to him, come, let me show you the man whom you are seeking. And when he went into her tent, there lay Sisera dead with the peg in the side of his head. And on that day Aluah humbled Jabin, sovereign of Canaan, in the presence of the children of Israel. And the hand of the children of Israel grew stronger and stronger against Jabin, sovereign of Canaan, until they had cut off Jabin, sovereign of Canaan. So the Father comes and delivers his people. And so in Judges chapter 5, from verses 4, it says, and Yahuwah, when you went out from Seir, when you stepped from the field of Edom, again this is now a song that's being sung, just like the song of Moses that was sung in Exodus chapter 15. This is now a song. And so they sang, when you stepped from the field of Edom, the earth shook and the heavens poured. The clouds also poured water. The mountains flowed at the presence of Yahuwah, this Sinai at the presence of Yahuwah, Aluah of Israel. In the days of Shamgar and the son of Anath, in the days of Yael, the highways were deserted and the travelers went in crooked ways. Verse 7, leadership ceased. It ceased in Israel until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel arose. Father rose up a woman that was to become a mother, one that was going to be able to lead her people to victory. And it is these religious spirits that keep wanting to put woman down, to be able to say, well, a woman cannot do this. Well, yeah, in this very word, Father raises up two women that destroy the hold over Father's people. And Deborah was a type of a deliverer for her people, just like Moses was a deliverer for his people. So let us look at 1 Corinthians chapter 10, as we are going to be able to see a pattern unfolding for us that, you know, everything that has been put in this Bible is put here for us to be able to understand that the Father has already laid out for us a foundation. And everything is a foundation for us to be able to learn from the foundation that has been given us. So what we have just read in this Torah portion, and in these Torah portions as we've been reading through Shemot, is as lessons for us, so that we understand that we are not to make the same mistakes as these Israelites. So let us read 1 Corinthians chapter 10 from verse 1, and it says, for I do not wish you to be ignorant, brothers, that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and all were immersed into Moshe, in the cloud and in the sea, and all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that flowed, and the rock was Messiah. So Yeshua was the rock that was to give them the living water, the rock that is going to be able to become the word of Yahuwah, because we need spirit and truth. However, with most of them Aluah was not well pleased, for they were laid low in the wilderness. And these became examples for us, so that we should not lust after evil, as they indeed lusted. So you see, all of this has been given to us as examples. Are we still going to be able to chase after the lusts of our flesh and allow the spirit of Amalek to be able to come and rule our lives? Are we going to give ourselves to that spirit of Esau, where the enemy where the devil is eating from the lust of our flesh. He's eating the flesh man. He's living off our flesh man. And therefore he's ruling and reigning on this earth. And do not become idolaters, as some of them, as it has been written. The people sat down to eat and to drink and stood up to play. Neither should we commit whoring, as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 fell. Why? Because we want to fornicate and whore with the things of the world. And that is why there was a harsh word that the Father had me bring about unifying ourselves with the whore of Babylon, of the things of this world. If you love the world, the Bible says, if you love the world, the love of the Father is not in you. You cannot love the world, or else the love of the Father will not be in you. Now, where is that scripture? Is it in 1 John? 1 John chapter 2. Let's read it. Do not love the world, nor that which is in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Are you trying to save your life by bowing down to this world system? This beast system that is on our doorstep? Is that what we are doing? Because all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father. That is the spirit of Amalek. But is of the world. And the world passes away, and the lust of it. But the one doing the desire of Elohim remains forever. Little children, it is late. The hour is late. This is the last hour. And as you have heard that the anti-Messiah is coming, even now many anti-Messiahs have come. This is how we know that it is the last hour. This is where we are. This is the word of what he's giving us. We are not to whore with the whore of Babylon. We are not to be able to fornicate with the things of the world and bow down to the lusts of the things of this world. If we are going to save our lives, we will lose it. But if we lose our lives for his name's sake, we will surely save it. Neither let us try Messiah. Some of them tried and were destroyed by serpents. Neither grumble, as some of them also grumbled and were destroyed by the destroyer. And all these came upon them as examples, and they were written as warnings to us, on whom the ends of the ages have come. So that he who thinks he stands, let him take heed lest he fall. Let us not be so filled with arrogance and pride, lest we stand, because we will fall. No trial has overtaken you except such as is common to man. And Elohim is trustworthy, who shall not allow you to be tried beyond what you are able, but with the trial. So even when we are tested, he shall also make the way of escape, enabling us to bear it. So many times the trial and the test is there so that we can overcome. We are to bear it and we are to overcome. Let us read John chapter 6. John chapter 6, and we are going to read from verses 25 to 37. And he says, and having found him on the other side of the sea, they asked him, Rabbi, what did you come here? When did you come here? Yahuwah answered them and said, truly, truly, I say to you, you seek me not because you saw signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were satisfied. So he's the bread of life, you see. Do not labor for the food that is perishing, but for the food that is remaining to everlasting life, which the Son of Adam shall give you. For the Father Elohim has set his seal on him. You see, the Father Abba Yahuwah set his seal on him. And if we are in him and he is in us and we are one in him and we walk as he walked, then we will too have the seal. So they said to him, what should we do to work the works of Elohim? Yahuwah answered and said to them, this is the work of Elohim, that you believe in him whom he sent. And they said to him, what sign then would you do so that we see and believe you? What would you do? Our fathers ate manna in the wilderness, as it was written, he gave them bread out of heaven to eat. Therefore Joshua said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, Moshe did not give you the bread out of heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread out of the heaven. For the bread of Eloah is he who comes down out of heaven and gives life to the world. He is the bread of life that has been given to us. So they said to him, Master, give us this bread always. And Joshua said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not get hungry at all, and he who believes in me shall not get thirsty at all. There, the thirsty is going to be the rivers of living water which stand for the Spirit, and the hungry is going to be the word that he's going to speak. You've got to eat his word and drink his blood. Eat his flesh and drink his blood. But I said to you that you have seen me and still do not believe. And all that the Father gives me shall come to me, and the one who comes to me I shall by no means cast out. Because I've come down out of heaven not to do my own desire, but the desire of him who sent me. This is the desire of the Father who sent me, that all he has given me I shall not lose it, but should raise it up in the last day. And this is the desire of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him should possess everlasting life. What is everlasting life? To know him. John chapter 17 verse 3. That we should perceive, recognize, understand, and become acquainted with him as a husband and our wife. And I shall raise him up in the last day. And therefore the Yehudim were grumbling against him, because he said, I am the bread which came down out of heaven. So do you see, this is exactly why they did not receive him, just like the Israelites in the wilderness grumbled against Moshe. So the Israelites here, these Pharisees and Sadducees grumbled against him and would not receive him. Now we will finish off with Revelation chapter 15, so that who are those that are going to be able to stand in these last days? The ones who will have the seal, the ones that will overcome. And I saw another sign in the heavens, great and marvelous, 7 messengers having the 7 last plagues, for the wrath of Eloah was ended in them. And I saw a sea of glass. Listen, for the wrath of Eloah was ended in them. Wow. So they are going to go through many things. And I saw like a sea of glass mixed with fire, and those overcoming the beast and his image, and his mark, and the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, holding harps of Eloah, and they sing the song of Moshe. They keep the word that was given to them, the foundational covenant that was given to Moshe, and the servant of Eloah, and they sung the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and marvelous are your works, O Yahuwah El Shaddai. Righteous and true are your ways, O sovereign of the set-apart ones. Praise Abba Yahuwah. Who shall not fear you, O Yahuwah, and esteem your name, because you alone are kind, because all nations shall come and worship before you, for your righteousnesses have been made manifest. So the Father is making his righteousness made manifest on the earth. They are following the Lamb wherever he goes. They are singing the song of Moses. They are following the law that was given, the commands that was given to Moses by the mouth of Abba Yahuwah. So we praise Abba Yahuwah for this Torah portion. Let us pray. Abba Father, I thank you for your word. I thank you for Yeshua, that is the rock of our salvation. He's the rock that gives us the water of life that is to drink, which is symbolic of the Ruach of Yahuwah, which is what was spoken when he says, I am the living water that you need to drink. And he was speaking about the Ruach of Yahuwah that was to be given us. And he's the manna that we ate in the heavens, from the heavens. The manna that is the bread of life, which is the word. Every word that comes forth from his mouth we are to keep and we are to follow. And he has come to give us everlasting life, which is to be able to bring us where he said in John chapter 17, let's just go there because I didn't read it. John chapter 17, where he said, this is eternal life, that they shall know me, that they shall know my Father, that they shall know me, And this is everlasting life. Everlasting life. In John chapter 17 verses 3, and this is everlasting life, that they shall know you, the only true Eloah, and Yahushua Messiah, whom you have sent. And that word know is the word yada, to perceive, recognize, understand, become acquainted with him as a husband and a wife in intimacy. Abba Yahuwah, I pray that you take us into that intimacy with you and teach us to walk in your ways, that we shall surely walk in your ways and keep your ordinances and your precepts and your commands, and we shall follow. In Yeshua's name we pray this. Amen. Amen.